Hey there, I'm Neal DiPentino. Welcome to Business Breakthroughs. So glad you could join us today. We have a really great show for you today. We're bringing on a person who has a unique business, something that we've not really had on our program before, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But he's also a business coach, dealing primarily in human resources, that type of thing. And I think you're going to really enjoy the show. You're going to learn a whole lot. So just make sure you stick it out all the way to the very end. We're going to be talking today with the co-founder and CEO of DEI Pro Finders. He's a strategic HR leader, a coach, and I'm telling you, you're going to really enjoy this guy. He's a really good guy. All the way from Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to the show, Juan Taveras. Juan, welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that intro, Neal. Yeah.
Did I say it right?
You did. Yes, that's spot on.
All right. Fantastic. I was worried about that. People have a tendency to kind of screw my name up in a bad way. I mean, I've heard it, people usually say DiPentino. It's not as DiPentino. It's actually two words. And I've heard they've actually added, letters to it and it's always fun when you get a solicitor calling you because they're a solicitor because they don't even get close. But yes. I'm so happy that I said it right. And I'm so happy that you're on our show today, Juan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Neal. I'm excited too.
Well, fantastic. You got a great background. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you have been working in nonprofit for some time, working in HR for a really long time. You started a business called DEI Pro Finder, and this is a business to help other businesses find other DEI consultants, but then you've taken it one step further, and we'll talk a little bit further more about that. But before we jump into all that, I'd like you to tell our audience just a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you. So like you said, I've been in the HR field 13 years, just over 13 years now, which is kind of crazy. But before that, I started my career in the hospitality industry. So I went to school for hospitality. I thought that's what I wanted to do long term. I was really mostly attracted to the potential for travel, which I got to do a little bit of, but it wasn't a good fit for me. So I did that for a few years and then eventually stumbled upon the nonprofit sector, started there as an operations manager was my first role, and then quickly took on additional HR responsibilities, and I got hooked into the HR field. And I like to think that it makes sense for me, given my attraction to hospitality, right? Because HR at the end of the day is taking care of people, right? You're creating inclusive and welcoming and spaces and experiences that keep people coming back, right? That was something that one of the main things that I learned in my hospitality training. It's all about that experience. So fast forward 13 years later, I've been a HR leader in the nonprofit sector in a number of organizations. But about a year and a half ago, started what was a passion project. My wife and I co-created DEI Pro Finder. And it was really to address a challenge that I was having as an HR leader of an organization. So as many organizations around 2020 started taking DEI more seriously, given the societal unrest and everything that was going on in our country, DEI work landed on my plate as well. So I've been doing what you would call traditional HR for a long time, but after 2020, started doing more diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And there was a lot that I needed to learn about. So there was what would you call it? Like a learning curve. It's a pretty steep learning curve there around that work. And finding the challenge that I came across is finding the right kind of consultant for the work that I was trying to do was incredibly challenging. And it surprised me because with the need in our workforce, you would think it'd be easier. So I was literally just venting really about this to my wife one afternoon. And my wife, by the way, is a clinical psychologist. She's got a private practice here in Phoenix and very successful. But she literally says she lists her business on Psychology Today, which is a mental health directory online. And she said, why isn't there a Psychology Today version for DI consultants? Can't you just go on there? And I said, wow, that's actually brilliant. Let me see. I don't know. So we started doing some digging around, and I did come across a couple of sites that claimed to have a list of consultants, but it was behind a paywall, which for me, it just didn't sit. I didn't really like that feeling that it's like, oh, I have to pay you money to then find out if you have what I need.
Right.
So I was like, okay, there might be an opportunity here. So we started to build DEI Pro Finder, and we launched it in June or August of 2022. And then in November, just a year ago today, or this month, I left my job to do it full time. So
nice.
Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you have, what did you tell me? You have like 140 some consultants that are on site now?
Just over 120 right now, yes.
120. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, you're going to be at 140 in no time at all. So I'm a positive thinker. What can I say? So, it's interesting because a lot of businesses, they really concentrate on, building the business, building sales, the things that, that top line type stuff that everybody, is always kind of looking for, the profits and all that. But really to get there, you got to have the right staff, the right kind of people. And in order to have the right kind of people, you got to build the right culture. Is that correct?
100%. Yes.
Yeah. So the DEI component in that is something that, employees are looking for. They want to find that culture where it's a fit for them. Can you explain a little bit more what DEI is all about?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, because there's as you probably know, just a ton of information and a lot of talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion out there. But from my perspective, diversity, equity, and inclusion is directly connected, like you said, to it, or it should be, and if you're doing it well, to every aspect of the business. It isn't a program or initiative or a department. It really needs to be embedded into everything that we do, right? So from an HR perspective, and this is why I think, because it's so connected to people, it makes sense for often HR leaders to lead this work, or for there to be a very strong partnership between the HR team and the DEI team or department, because it's so connected to the individual experience. But beyond that, that's sort of at its core, right? But then the other layers, or if you think about it as a ripple effect, it's going to impact the way that you do business, the way that teams start to engage with each other. When you think about the leveraging everyone's unique identities, right? The diversity on the team to ensure that you're getting the best work out of your folks, but also engaging in ways that are meaningful. So embracing different communication styles and addressing people's needs as in that workflow process will get you a better outcome and better product, which will then impact your audience and your customers, right? So it's connected to everything that a business does. Now the challenge, and this is where a lot of my work comes in, right? When this unfortunately when this work is not done well, a lot of challenges pop up, right? And this is what we're hearing a lot about in the media, with entire DI departments being eliminated, or those DI roles being laid off, because they didn't give that work enough time, right? This is a change process. Like we're changing the way that we're working, and we're changing the way that we're talking about the work experience. Then it's going to take time for people to catch on. Now, one of the things that I do in my practice is that, like I said earlier, it's not about training. It's not just about training. It's not just about having a DEI strategy or program. It's about embedding it into everything that you're doing. So starting with an HR audit, right? Let's look at your policies, your practices, your procedures. How are they ensuring that they're meeting the needs of everyone in the organization, right? That's just like a first starting point as an assessment, and then going from there. Because what I've noticed is that organizations sort of skip that step, and then they dive into the deep end. We start talking about racial identity and microaggressions and white privilege before we've actually set the foundation for the safety that needs to be in place in order for those conversations to be fruitful. So now we're in this space, at least I find myself in a lot of my work, having to unpack some of the stuff that's been done in order to go back to the basics and almost start over. Yeah, I went on a tangent there a little bit, but
No, you're fine. You're actually, I love what you were saying. And one thing I really like about what you were saying is this, is that you call your business a practice. And I agree with that. I mean, if you take a look at what's happening in our world and the way people work and the way people interact and in the workplace, it's evolved from the time that I started in business to now, and it's going to continue to evolve, over the next several years, and maybe it'll evolve forever. I don't know, but there's really, I guess there's levels of expertise in this area, right? Mm-hmm. But because of the change and the evolution of it, it is like a practice. You have to continue to learn, to come up with new concepts, to come up with new ideas that make the workplace safe for everyone involved.
100%, yeah, and I agree with that. It's a commitment to learning and evolving with the needs of the people, especially today. You think about the amount of generations in the workforce right now, right? And all the different needs and expectations of what work should be and look like. And as leaders and business owners, we have to be aware of that and ensure that we're creating places that are balanced, right? Because it's not one like a mistake some folks make is trying to please everyone. They think that the DEI work means everyone needs to feel comfortable or everyone needs to have their needs met, which is really, I would say, is impossible. What I like to think is you have to be people-centered, right? You want to ensure that you are aware of the needs and the identities and everything else of your people. And you have to be business focused, because it's two sides of the same coin. You can't only focus on one side and then expect success. Like, it has to be in service of the business, which is why we're all there, right? Even when I was in HR internally, it's like, hey, I'm here to advocate for employees and staff members of this organization, and that has to serve the business, because it's not one or the other.
Right. It's not adversarial. It shouldn't be adversarial. It should be, a way that we can come together for a common cause.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. Fantastic. So now you have the DEI Pro Finder, which is 120 some odd consultants. That's how people can, find somebody that might be a fit for their business. We were just talking a little bit before we started the podcast, and you told me that you've transitioned into coaching on your own, which is a kind of a new fun type thing, I would imagine, a little scary maybe at times, but how's that going for you?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Neal. So the business has evolved in an interesting way, and we've sort of embraced it, right? Going with it and addressing the needs that are coming to us. So the first need we address with the directory is just access, right, to consultants and an understanding of the breadth of experience that is out there. And I like to say that no two DI consultants are alike, right? Even if they focus in the same niche, right? They bring a unique lived experience to their work and are going to have a unique perspective. So valuing that, right? Valuing the difference within the diversity landscape, if you will. But the second piece now, we have this directory and folks are using it. We started getting about 6 months ago outreach from HR leaders that are saying, this is great, except I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know where to start, or I don't know what I need. And that opened up a door for us to do one-on-one consulting, which has turned into coaching, really, because it's not a one and done kind of situation. It's really, I guide them through that initial journey. And it's been, to your point, it's been scary because this is new for me. And it's been really cool to see the vast majority of people that I work with right now are basically a previous version of me, right? They're HR leaders in a growth phase or mid-career that are looking for guidance around this work. And that's where I was just 5 years ago, or 3 years ago. So it's been nice to be able to share my learnings and my mistakes, because I made a lot with my clients and then helping them do that work better than I did the first time around. Sure.
We all, we'll all make mistakes, right? And that's how we learn, and fortunately or hopefully we don't make too many of them. They're not too bad, but some are worse than others, right? But it is a learning experience, and that's how I think personally. I think I love the fact that the mistakes that I've made, I've learned from them, and I'm able to share with people not only how they should do things, but maybe how they should not do things and some of the pitfalls they should look for in their businesses, whether it be HR or anything else. So who is a typical client for you, Juan?
Yeah. So the main, my main audience right now is HR leaders. And those are the ones that I get to coach and go deeper with.
Okay. Are they small businesses, or are they what size business will you typically work with?
Small to mid-sized. Yeah. Okay. So, because I do have a couple of coaching clients that are in that oversee 1,000 employees or so. So, would that be considered mid-size? I think that's the top end of mid-size.
That's a little bit bigger than my business. I can tell you that. Right.
So it's been fun, but the vast majority, to no surprise, is nonprofit folks, because again, that's where my expertise lies. And then on the flip side, on the more less coaching, more consulting, I do have a couple of nonprofit small businesses that are the CEOs of those companies are leading the DEI work because they don't have an internal HR. So I serve as their consultant in that work and have more on the strategy development side than the execution piece. But yeah. It's been fun.
So when somebody reaches out to you, so you're talking about CEOs and the nonprofits, small businesses, when they reach out to you with concerns about the culture of their business, the DEI portion of their business, what is your process in working with them? How do you get from having a concept to actually putting that concept into work?
Yeah, great question. So I do a couple of things because oftentimes it's kind of like being a doctor. The issue that somebody comes to your office with is a symptom of something else, right? So I like to do like a root cause analysis of what folks are coming to me with. So a CEO can come to me and say, "Hey, I'm having a retention issue." I was like, "Okay." So you might think the solution is we need to hire more people, but when you ask more questions and you figure out like why are people leaving? Like what is it that is causing the retention issue? Because we need to address that before we focus on hiring more people, right? So that's just a simple example of how I do it. So it requires an assessment. So I do often one of the first phases of the work is both an HR assessment but also a culture assessment, which requires many interviews with other folks, well, not other folks, but people across the organization. So not just leadership. I want to talk to anyone in the field. I want to talk to middle managers, anyone that is I want to get a cross section of perspectives of how people are experiencing the organization, because you might not have any issues at the top, but they might be hidden or unspoken about at the bottom. So I want to get a sense of all of that before I can develop a strategy. And even in that work, I take a very agile approach. And it's like, I'm not interested in developing a 1 or 2 year strategy. Let's focus on the next 3 months. Let's see what change we can make in the next quarter, and then address and fine tune the plan as we go along, because we just, there's so much we don't know. And because we're talking about people, it's very nuanced. So that's my initial step.
Well, I like the baby steps part of that. It makes a lot of sense, because there's just not, you can't just come in and just one big swoop and try to change everything. It just doesn't work. You have to kind of chip away from it. So I really like that comment that you made on that. Do you run into any kind of, interference, or are people always willing to tell you what's on their mind about their business?
Yeah, not always. There's it runs the gamut. You've got folks that are eager to share everything and want to vent essentially to an HR professional, because oftentimes these are, so I'm on both sides. When I'm working with HR leaders, they see a partner in me, right? They're like, "Oh, you get it. I'm going to tell you, here's the real deal." Right. And then when I'm working with a small for-profit that doesn't have an HR department, then this is like a relief for them. They're like, "Oh, somebody who can help me, make a change or navigate this with me. But to your point, there are some folks that are they're reluctant, right? Let's use that word to say too much because they don't know. And oftentimes I get that because I'm still a stranger, right? So I focus then when I hit those roadblocks on building relationships. So it's if it's a local client, those are my favorite because I can go in person and have coffee chats. I can join an all staff meeting and do some team building with them. So they know that they get a better sense of who I am and how I operate, as opposed to just being someone on a screen that's asking them to divulge all their secrets. So yeah, and that's also why it's important to get, for me, a cross section of interviews, because to balance that out, you're going to get more information from some and less from others. But the more folks I get to talk to, the more balanced that is.
Sure. Most of the clients that you're working with, they've already identified a problem, like you said, the retention problem, or do you have clients that come to you before they really get the ball rolling, like startups that say, I want to do this the right way and I want to start this thing the right way? Do you ever see any of that? I
have one right now. It's not as typical, if at least in my experience. But this person this individual is starting a company, and they're very invested in the DEI work, so want to get it right from the beginning. But yeah, I wish I had more clients like that, so that I can get it all sorted before things start to go wrong, right?
Well, maybe we just have to have a conversation at some point in time. We are having a conversation. I mean, maybe offline.
Okay.
Fantastic. Well, so you've got a couple of ways to get in contact with. Obviously, you have the website, the Finder, and then you also have your own consultant or your own coaching business. How do people get in contact with you personally if they want to hire you or talk to you about being a coach for them?
Yeah, thank you, Neal. So the DEI Pro Finder is the main way to go, but also LinkedIn is basically my business development tool. So I answer every message I get on LinkedIn and engage with folks that way. And then if we have to hop off LinkedIn and go into email, we can do that there as well. But for any initial engagement, my LinkedIn page is where to go. Fantastic.
Any parting thoughts, my friend?
Let's see. I think, well, first of all, it was great to be on your show. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed our conversation. And I would say, more generally for your listeners, just keep doing what you're doing. I think there's one lesson I've learned over the last year is, because there were so many times I wanted to just throw in the towel and say, this isn't working.
All in there.
Yeah. But consistency and just showing up with enthusiasm every day really makes a difference and opens doors. And here I would have never thought I was going to be on a podcast like this. And here I am. So it's the proof is in the pudding, right? So this is
that's right.
What happens when you just stick with it and keep your eye on the goal.
Well, you're a wonderful guest. We really appreciate you letting us. Boy, I already messed that up already. Thank you for being on our show. Thanks for spending some time with us today. I appreciate it, Juan.
Thank you, Neal.
All right, so that's our show for today. So thrilled y'all could be with us. Business Breakthroughs is sponsored by Titan Media Works. Check us out at titanmediaworks.com. That's works with an X. Also, check out all of our great hosts on Small Business Delivered Network at smallbusinessdelivered.com. Until next time, thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.